Welcome to another episode of Let's Look at It Again. Today we're going to discuss a recent film that was released by Nate Parker. Nate Parker actually directed, and wrote this film. American Skin follows a Marine veteran, Nate himself. His name is Link in the film. It's a Marine veteran who wants to mend his relationship with his teenage son, moves into a better neighborhood away from supposedly crime and all the other issues that black people deal with in their predominantly black communities. Puts his son into a good school. Driving home one night, his son is killed by a police officer who shoots him in the back. Subsequently, the police officer gets off, is found not guilty or not found at fault for the murder. So what Nate, his family, and friends do is they get a bunch of machine guns. They kidnap the police chief, go into the police precinct, hold the police hostage, and they have a mock court trial where the officer who murdered his child has to stand trial against a jury that is made up of a few civilians and some actual inmates who are inside of the city or county jail. The film goes on to discuss so many of the racial topics that we deal with every day in this country. It covers some of the background to um, uh, the crime itself that took place of the officer shooting this boy, and then it goes into black on black violence, white racism and aggression. In the end of the story, what happens is the officer is found guilty by the jury, again, which is made up of inmates and civilians. And Nate Parker, or Link, who his character is, Link puts his gun to the officer's head, and then he pretty much just wants the officer to apologize, right? So the whole gist of this armed black group going into the police station is to get this officer to acknowledge his wrongdoing. So the film ends with the police officers being released, who were formerly hostages, and all of the armed guys, the machine gun carrying brothers who were in there with Link, all just kind of walk away. It's very vague. He doesn't tell us what happens to them. And he's walking out with the police officer. I guess they're supposed to walk out in some kind of solidarity. But before Nate can exit the building, I'm sorry, Link, before Link can exit the building with the police officer, a sniper shoots him in the head, ending the movie. So no justice is actually served. The the story the dialogue between the black armed brothers who stormed the precinct and the police is really the bulk of what this film is supposed to be carrying. um we were looking for some kind of shoot 'em up ending. I guess a lot of people were just totally dissatisfied that this was another example of the black man punking out and not getting any justice. Maybe they should have went out in a blaze of glory. I don't know what some people are expecting, but for me personally, I would say that the logical conclusion to this film or to this activity would be that, yeah, they take all of the officers out before, whether they're going to surrender or they're going to go out in a hail of bullets. There's only two ways that this situation could go. You got a bunch of black men with machine guns storm the police station, hold police hostage. Either they're going to die or they're going to surrender, and they're going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. With this film, the brothers who were there with the main character Link, played by Nate Parker, the rest of the guys kind of just disappear, and Link, the main character, whose son was shot by the police officer, he ends up getting sniped, and that's the end of him, and that's the end of the story. So, does this you represent some kind of justice for Black America? Not at all. Should we be dissatisfied that the film ended this way? I think that's a fair assessment, to be dissatisfied, But I think with a lot of the dialogue that I'm seeing on social media is that a lot of people aren't giving a thorough enough analysis and actually, giving us examples of how the film should have ended or how the story should have ended. And I would like, to kind of emphasize the importance of this narrative, not just being a movie, but more of a narrative that black people actually experience in this country, where we suffer violence from the state-sanctioned violence, which means, the police or white, vigilantes are able to murder us unarmed, defenseless, shooting us in the back in the streets, and there's no recourse. We don't get justice through the judicial system, and we don't even do vigilante justice ourselves. But we have had some instances like Micah Johnson down in Texas, who got tired of the whole Black Lives Matter and police oppression and violence, and he took it into his own hands and went out into the street, and he took out a few police officers himself. Don't want to, come off like as if I'm saying, that I want to incite anyone to any police violence. I don't want to come off that way. But if we want logical conclusions to narratives like this story in particular, the only logical conclusion would be for those brothers who stormed that police station to go all out, take out every single cop in there, black and white, and do it live on social media, live on the news, and let the world see that, there's one group of black people that said, enough is enough. We're not going to stand for it anymore. We're not going to take it. This is just an example of the colonial relationship that we have with America. Frantz Fanon wrote about this in his book, The Wretched of the Earth, the chapter title Concerning Violence. I have the book right here in front of me. This is actually the second chapter Concerning Violence, where Frantz Fanon tells us that, the only way the colonial powers are going to be diminished is through the same violence that they inflict on the natives. Of course, here in the United States of America, we're not under the same type of colonialism that Africa experienced, where you have settlers come in, invaders come in, and begin to be violent and oppress the natives in that area. But here we are under similar circumstances, where we are having our neighborhoods, our communities occupied by the police, by the state, and we're subject to state-sanctioned, again, violence and aggression, where there's no recourse from it. We don't get justice in the court system. We have these black bourgeois leaders who always seem to step in at the right time. The Jesse Jackson type, the what's his name, Al Sharpton type. Now you have this new lawyer, Ben Crump, I think his name is. They tend to step in and subdue the rioting. They put down the rebellions, tell us to be peaceful, to go home. Everything's going to be okay. We're going to fight this system from the inside out. And as Frantz Fanon let us know, that this is just not how these types of oppressive situations come to an end. If it's a violent situation from the start, which it was, with us being enslaved here, suffering Jim Crowism and all the police violence we continue to face, the only logical way out of a situation like this is going to be where we meet force with force. We're not going to obviously be in a position where we're going to literally overthrow every aspect of violence from the police and military in this country. But at some point, we have to stand up and we have to say, look, we're not going to take this anymore. And I think this film, if it would have ended that way, it could have spoke to what we must do as a people in this country. But, Nate Parker went ahead and he set us back with this film, I think, because people are going to watch it. And the narrative is going to be that, love can conquer all and everything is just going to be all right if we can just get them to hear what we have to say. So I just want everyone to think about, this film in that capacity, and to also, pick up Frantz Fanon's book, The Wretched of the Earth. If you haven't had it, you can go online. I'm actually putting a link in the description that's going to take you to that second chapter concerning violence, where you can read it. It's roughly about, I don't know, 10 pages or so. My focus on it is really from page 35 to about page 41. He goes off into a Marxist analysis of the relationship between the colonizer or the oppressed classes and the oppressed classes. Fanon tells us why he doesn't quite agree with all of that, and that's not my purpose here to go into a Marxist debate, but really just to kind of cover the importance of understanding what oppressed people experience, how they experience it, and all of the different factors, like the bourgeois factors within the oppressed class that tend to lean toward defending the establishment rather than making the revolutionary or the radical changes that need to take place to battle and combat these oppressive regimes. If you enjoyed this brief talk, let me know what you think. If you have any questions, you want to give any feedbacks or criticisms, please do so. Part of our growth comes through struggle. And I will say until next time, Bibi for Hodie, Hotep, peace and power.